My name is Jasmine. Right now I'm sitting in a hospital waiting room. My husband just served me divorce papers.
If you can't have a child, even if you say you're taking care of mom, we're getting a divorce.
Are you serious?
What's the matter? You don't like that idea? Of course. You'd be in trouble without me, wouldn't you?
My husband chuckles in a creepy way. How did I get here? To answer that, we need to go back a bit. It all started when I took a job at a meat processing company. Soon after starting, I was called into the CEO's office.
Our company's performance has been flat recently. I'm thinking of setting up a subsidiary.
A subsidiary?
In other words, I want to open a steakhouse using the meat processed at our plant.
A steakhouse? You want to make a restaurant a subsidiary?
I'm also considering restaurants focused mainly on meat dishes.
I get that it could be popular, but what does this have to do with me?
You mentioned during your interview that you like cooking, right? I want you to work in our newly found subsidiary.
I had a part-time experience in fast food during my student years, but I've never formally studied cooking. Besides, running a business involves more than just cooking. You have to think about operational efficiency too. I'm still inexperienced in the workforce.
Don't worry, you're not going to be the one responsible for everything,
CEO Terrence said with a smile. Encouraged by Terrence's smile, I decided to join the food subsidiary. However, it's my first year as a working adult, and on the other hand, the company is a startup. There's no guarantee it will take off. There's no way problems won't arise. Yet, I managed to overcome the challenges with the help of my colleagues. Eventually, the subsidiary got on track, and the number of steakhouses and restaurants increased. Over a few years, we opened up 7 steakhouses and 3 restaurants.
You've really pulled it off.
It's thanks to my colleagues. I couldn't have done it on my own.
Wow, I'm really glad I relied on you.
Thank you. As I blush, Terrence suddenly starts a conversation.
So are you free this Sunday?
Is it a business dinner or something?
No, I'd like you to have dinner with my family.
Dinner with your family? Terrence starts explaining, looking a bit apologetic. Turns out, Patricia, Terrence's wife, heard about my accomplishments from Terrence when she visited the office. At that time, I was busy working at a restaurant. Intrigued, Patricia went to the restaurant and saw me working efficiently. She immediately liked what she saw. Patricia then told Terrence, "Wouldn't it be great if a hard-working young woman like this became our son's wife?"
Indeed.
So let's arrange a dinner.
Dinner? Isn't that a bit sudden?
The sooner the better. Could you talk to her about it? Apparently, Patricia has been pretty pushy with Terrence. Terrence bows his head and says,
I'm really sorry, but Patricia insisted and I couldn't say no.
I get it.
Do you mind humoring Patricia for just a dinner?
Terrence's son is destined to become a CEO. Currently, he's the COO. I've crossed paths with him before and remember him as being handsome and kind. So, it's not a bad deal for me either. Understood. I can't refuse without meeting him.
Thank you. I'll confirm the time with Patricia and get back to you.
Terrence looks relieved. Apparently, Patricia had been quite demanding. The whole thing makes me smile a bit. And so comes Sunday. I was set to meet Terrence's son at a high-end French restaurant near the office.
Nice to meet you. I'm the COO, Calvin.
I work for the food services subsidiary. I'm Jasmine. Pleased to meet you today. As we exchange greetings, Patricia says, "You're even more wonderful than I thought." Thank you. If you marry Calvin, I can really rest easy. Well, if he approves. Patricia definitely seems more eager. However, Calvin doesn't look unwilling either. Moreover, we surprisingly hit it off as we talk. Calvin doesn't flaunt his wealth. He's smart and composed, exactly as I'd perceived him at the office. Still, he's the heir to a wealthy family. He wouldn't be interested in an average woman like me. Even so, I gave him my contact information as we said goodbye. But a few days later, against all my expectations, Calvin reached out to me.
"Wanna go for a drive?"
Sure. I was surprised. But we enjoyed a drive date that day. After that, Calvin started contacting me more and more. We went to movies, had meals together, like a couple. Eventually, Calvin asked,
"You keep hanging out with me, so you like me, right?"
"Well, I don't dislike you."
"How about we seriously date with marriage in mind?"
"Wait, marriage?"
"Truth is, my parents have been pushing me to get married, but all the women that come my way are just gold diggers. You're different."
Calvin is 3 years older than me. He's good looking and the COO of a company. It's no wonder he attracts gold diggers. And honestly, who wouldn't get tired of that? Suddenly, I felt a newfound affection for Calvin. So, I accepted a relationship with him. We dated for about a year before getting married. But that's where the good times ended. Calvin was incredibly sweet while we were dating. He even helped out at the house right after we got married. But as time passed, he began to be away from home more often, and his late-night returns became frequent. "Calvin, where have you been?"
"Where? I've been working. Working!"
"But you weren't at the office today. So how is it work?"
"I'm the COO. Sometimes I have to work outside the office. You get that, right?"
There's no way I could. Sure, I get that sometimes he has to meet with clients, but Calvin has many days when he doesn't even show up at the office. It's not like I can talk to my in-laws about this. Maybe things will settle down soon. After some thought, I decided to tolerate it for a while. But Calvin's behavior never changed. On the contrary, he started becoming more and more abrasive at home.
"What the heck is this food?"
Did I put something you don't like in it?"
"It tastes bad. Cook something better."
I'm sorry."
"Whatever. I'll go out and get something good to eat."
It was just once or twice that he stormed out like that in the middle of the night. I think he just wanted an excuse to leave. But if I confronted him about it, he'd just yell and that would be the end of it. I was growing more and more discontented. Taking Calvin's silence for granted, he started acting more and more recklessly. One evening, when he hasn't come home yet, I call him. "Calvin, it's already 10 p.m. Aren't you coming home?"
"Yeah, work's running late. Go ahead and sleep."
"But..."
"Bye."
Just like that, he hangs up. I checked at work later, and there were no signs that Calvin had been working overtime. On another day, he leaves early in the morning with a large bag. "Where are you going with all that stuff at this hour?"
"Huh? I'm on a business trip."
"To where?"
"None of your business. I'll be back in 3 days."
"Wait!" Calvin dashes out of the house. I immediately called his workplace only to find out he had taken a few days of paid leave. All the overtime and business trips were lies. The only thing I can think of is that he's cheating. Still, confronting Calvin only leads to vague excuses. In the end, I consult Patricia, Terrence's wife. And that's what's going on. "What? He's cheating?" Patricia's face turns red with anger, her hand trembling as she holds a cup. "So, Patricia, What should I do?
Leave that to me.
Leave it to you? What are you going to do?
I'll hire a detective to investigate him. If we find proof, he'll pay for it.
She slams her cup on the table. She's obviously really angry. But I'm curious about what kind of penalty she's planning. If Calvin loses his job, it'll affect me. She's probably thought of that, but it doesn't make me any less worried. Afterward, Patricia apparently told Terrence about the situation. Naturally, Terrence was furious too. We might even end up divorcing. I won't struggle financially since I still have my job. But Terrence is the CEO, and Calvin works at the same company. If the workplace becomes awkward, I might have to consider finding a new job. I start thinking about changing jobs. That's when it happened. I had been feeling off for a while, so I took a day off work and went to the doctor.
You are 2 months pregnant.
What? Pregnant?
Yes, you're definitely pregnant.
The doctor says, matter-of-factly. Come to think of it, there were signs. But the truth was, I was also stressed about the possibility of Calvin cheating on me. So I wanted to believe that my health issues were just stress-related. First things first, I told Patricia about my pregnancy.
So you're pregnant? That means a successor is on the way, right?
Yes, I just got it confirmed at the hospital.
Oh, congratulations!
Thank you. But there's also the issue with Calvin's infidelity.
What are you planning to do about that?
I definitely want to have this baby. So please keep the evidence of Calvin's cheating on your end. When I said that, Patricia's face clouded over for a moment. Then, she made a suggestion. You know, I've been pondering something for a while. I think now is the time to act on it. What do you mean? Well, I listened to Patricia's proposition. It sounds really promising.
I see. I want to go along with your plan, Patricia.
Thank you. It's good that I talked to Terrence as well. Does Terrence know about this?
Of course. Separate from that, I'll be coming over to your place starting today.
Why is that?
You're pregnant. It'll be tough to do everything yourself. Plus, we need to light a fire under Calvin.
Patricia smiled as she said that. Afterwards, I broke the news about my pregnancy to Terrence when he came home. He was genuinely delighted. Once I reported to Terrence, Patricia and I went home together. Calvin was already back.
Where have you been, Jasmine?
Calvin, why are you yelling?
Mom? Were you with Mom?
Calvin was surprised to see me come home with Patricia. Patricia spoke sternly to Calvin.
Jasmine is pregnant, so I'll be staying here for a while to help with housework.
What? Why are you, Mom?
I said I'm here to help with chores.
But
is there a problem, Calvin?
No, nothing.
Calvin looked bewildered. Clearly, he didn't expect Patricia to stay over. This might make him behave for a change. I held back a smile. Then Patricia, seeing Calvin's gloomy face, said, "Why the long face? This is good news. Don't you have something to say to Jasmine?"
Yeah. Congratulations, Jasmine. He said it reluctantly. But in front of Patricia, I answered with a smile. Sure. Thank you. And give birth to a cute baby, okay? Despite his words, Calvin looked displeased. Was it because he was seeing someone else or because Patricia would be staying over? Either way, I felt that Calvin wasn't happy. Months went by. Patricia did exactly as she promised and helped me with household chores. And whenever Calvin tried to go somewhere, she'd scold him. "Calvin, where are you going? It's dangerous to leave a pregnant Jasmine alone." Calvin seemed like he wanted to argue, but there was no way he could in this situation. I hope he learns from this, I thought to myself. As I entered my 7th month of pregnancy, I found myself needing Patricia's help more often. "I'm sorry, Patricia." "It's fine, dear. Even putting on socks is a challenge at this stage." While saying this, Patricia helped me put on socks. It's not that I couldn't do it myself, but Patricia understood the struggle and was quick to lend a hand. So I found comfort in her kindness. Patricia also told me she was happy to help. If you think about it, this is her first grandchild. Of course she's delighted. This brought Patricia and me even closer. Later, I went shopping with Patricia. "It's hard, I know, but you need some exercise." Encouraged by Patricia's words, we went out, though it was more challenging than I expected. But we somehow finished shopping and were on our way home. Just as we approached the intersection, a car stopped at the red light, was rear-ended by another. That car then lurched towards us. "Watch out!" I quickly shielded Patricia. We tumbled to the ground. Fortunately, the car swerved past us and came to a halt against a lamppost. "Are you okay?" The driver jumped out of the car, shouting. "Yes, for now." At that moment, Patricia sprang up. "Jasmine, how's the baby?" "I think we're okay. We just fell over." "But that's it! We need an ambulance! To the hospital!" Patricia was frantic, not even noticing she'd scraped her knee. Thanks to her, I remained calm. Soon after, an ambulance arrived, and just to be safe, Patricia and I ended up going to the hospital. Certainly, I wasn't hurt. Patricia just skinned her knee. I felt awkward getting on the ambulance. "Please, don't hesitate. You're pregnant, and even if you're okay now, your condition could change rapidly." Convinced by the kind words from the EMT, I rode in an ambulance for the first time in my life. So, I was transported back to the hospital. Everything checked out fine there. While I was waiting for Patricia's treatment to finish, Calvin, who got a call from the police, rushed to the hospital. What Calvin blurted out to me in the waiting room was shocking. "If you're not gonna have the baby, let's get a divorce." In Calvin's hand was a filled-out divorce form. It even seemed he had signed it. "Are you serious?" "Why? You don't want that? You'd be in trouble if we divorce, wouldn't you?" Calvin, creepily smiling, seemed to be misunderstanding something. He also seemed to know that I had suspected his infidelity. He's obviously trying to quash the affair by threatening divorce. Either way, this is my chance. I grabbed the divorce papers from my husband. Just then, Patricia came out from the treatment room. "Patricia, Calvin wants a divorce." "What?" "So, we're getting divorced," I cheerfully declared. Calvin then started panicking for some reason. "What are you talking about? You'd be in trouble if we divorce." "No, not at all." "Then I'll file this." Wait a minute!" Calvin tried to stop me. So I told him this. "You're the one who brought up divorce, so I'll be taking alimony. I have evidence of your affair, and there are plenty of witnesses here." Everyone in the room focused their attention on us. Of course, since Calvin had raised his voice in the waiting area,
Suddenly, Calvin seemed embarrassed and mumbled,
Stop it. Not here.
You started this. Anyway, I'm filing for divorce. Bye. I left the hospital and got into a taxi. I went home, grabbed a pen, and headed straight to the courthouse. I signed and filed the divorce papers right then and there. When I returned home, Calvin and Patricia were waiting for me.
Jasmine, did you file for divorce without telling me?
You're the one who said let's divorce, remember?
Well, that's,
Besides, I don't know what you're misunderstanding, but I am having the baby. Acknowledge it. In the end, Calvin agreed to acknowledge our child after Patricia scolded him. He agreed to divorce after agreeing to pay me alimony. After that, I moved back to my parents' home. Currently on leave, I'm considering quitting my job now that I'm divorced. It would be awkward to bump into Terrence, the CEO, or my ex-husband Calvin at the office. But first things first, I have a baby on the way. Let's think about the job situation after the baby is born. So, I focused on giving birth at my parents' home. After some time, I successfully gave birth in a stress-free environment. Both mom and baby were doing well, and I was able to return to work 6 months later. Thanks to Terrence's thoughtfulness, I was reassigned to a subsidiary. That way, I rarely have to see Calvin. I worked hard, not just for myself, but also for my newborn son, Louis. I also made sure to introduce Louis to Patricia and Terrence. He's so cute! He might even take after Patricia around the eyes. You think? Things remained good between Patricia, Terrence, and me, even after the divorce. As for Calvin, he was always out, so I never saw him. Then, after a few years, I got an unexpected call from Patricia. It was to inform me of Terrence's passing. I immediately headed to the church where the funeral was to be held. When I arrived, Patricia was there. Patricia? Jasmine! Thank you for coming. Of course. Terrence, well, the CEO still helps me out to this day. I had heard Terrence was sick. Even in the subsidiary, I was kept informed about his condition. So I had heard that he was recuperating from an illness. But I never thought he would pass away this soon. Didn't bring Louis? My mom will bring him later. I'm sure Terrence would have wanted to see him one last time. Thank you. While talking to Patricia, Calvin suddenly showed up.
What's this? A stranger in our midst.
Calvin.
What are you doing here post-divorce? Eyeing the inheritance?
Calvin started making snide comments. Moreover, next to him was a young woman I had never seen before, who said, "Who's this woman? She looks poor." Just as I was getting annoyed, Calvin said to the young woman,
She's an old flame. Don't worry about her.
Really?
It's just you now, Kylie. You're the cutest girl in the world.
Confused, I watched their interaction. Then, Patricia, visibly irritated, said to Calvin, "Stop it, Calvin! Jasmine is still my daughter."
What? We're divorced. She's not your stepdaughter anymore.
Calvin yelled, but Patricia was quick to defend me. Jasmine is a fine daughter. She's legally adopted, you know.
Adopted?
Exactly. I was legally adopted by Terrence and Patricia. This was actually Patricia's idea, suggested when I came to her troubled by Calvin's infidelity. Being adopted makes me their legal daughter, and if I have a child, that child would be their descendant.
In simpler terms, even if I passed away, my son Louis would have the right to inherit Terence and Patricia's estate. Also, the adoption doesn't get nullified if Calvin and I get divorced. Patricia knew this and suggested the adoption.
Mom cares that much about Jasmine and Louis?
She had to because you were cheating. This was the only way to protect Jasmine and Louis. Calvin was stunned by Patricia's stern words.
Wait, so I don't get any inheritance, but she does? That's not fair!
Well, nothing we can do. Spouses don't get inheritance rights, but I'll share what I get with Kylie.
I can't accept this.
Kylie, the younger woman, kept making a scene till the end, but making noise wouldn't solve anything. In the end, Calvin managed to calm Kylie down, and the funeral went smoothly. Months later, the distribution of Terence's estate was decided. Many heirs were involved, each inheriting a share. Some got cash, while Patricia inherited stock in a meat processing company. Calvin and I divided the subsidiary companies between us. The subsidiary is split into two companies, one operating steak restaurants and the other operating restaurants. He got the steakhouse chain, and I got the restaurant chain.
Serve you right. You're just an adopted daughter. You won't get as much as a real child like me.
True. Calvin's assets were more valuable, so he said that out of spite. Although it stung, I couldn't complain, because this was decided before Terence passed away. I later became the CEO of the restaurant company. With my existing expertise and help from colleagues, the business is doing quite well. Calvin, on the other hand, ran his steakhouse business into the ground. Within half a year, all locations were closed, and the company went bankrupt. Calvin came crying to me soon after.
Jasmine, make me an executive in your company.
Why should I?
We were once close, right?
You had the bigger company and you failed. Why are you saying this now?
But
enough! If you keep bothering me, I'll sue you. I finally told him off, and Calvin backed down. Soon after the company's downfall, Kylie vanished. Now, Calvin is scraping by with a part-time delivery job. I learned this from an employee of the company Calvin ruined. Many of those employees are now working hard to relaunch a steakhouse under my company. I am busy, but still determined, remembering how I felt when Terence first gave me responsibilities.